Hello everyone and welcome to a new reading vlog. Now, as you can tell by the thumbnail and the title, today's reading vlog is going to be a little bit different because I've decided to dedicate a week to only read murder mystery books. Now, this idea is definitely inspired by Meg from Meg with Books. She's done quite a few of these videos and I've loved every single one, and you guys know that murder mystery is one of my favourite genres, so it's only fitting that as I have a week off that I would film this video for you guys. Now, before actually starting this, I wasn't too sure whether I wanted to focus my attention on reading a murder mystery series or whether I wanted to read standalone mysteries, and so I took to Twitter to ask all of you guys, and as you can see by the results, reading the standalone books won. I'm definitely happy about that. I feel like I'm not really in the mood at the minute to be committing myself to a series, and so having a few different mysteries will hopefully be a good thing for me. I am planning on reading 4 books for this vlog. I have gone through my shelves, I've picked out the options, and I'm really excited for each and every single one. So the first one is going to be The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie. This is the next Poirot book that I need to read, and it is one of Agatha Christie's most famous works. I have heard nothing but amazing things about this one. I'm so excited to pick it up. I've only recently started reading the Poirot books because some of you may know that I focused my attention on the Miss Marple murder mysteries. I have since finished them, of course, and I'm now up to the 4th Poirot book. This one in particular is a locked room mystery, which has me so excited, and I couldn't not include an Agatha Christie book on this list, you guys, because she is the queen of crime and I really do tend to enjoy all of her books. Then next up we have The Appeal by Janice Hallett. This has been on my shelves for a while. I actually started reading it once. I think I got up to page 60, 66, something like that, so I didn't get too far through. I don't know why, but I just wasn't connecting to the story at the time, and so I decided to put it down for a later date because, again, this book had so much hype. People were really singing its praises and I felt like I could go back to it and revisit it one day in order to see what the hype was all about. I initially picked this one up off of a Waterstones bookseller recommendation. I was in there one day and I was essentially just looking for murder mystery books. This had only just come out at that point, I believe, and the bookseller was very interested in it, and the way that he talked about it just had me sold, which is why I ultimately bought it. But the different thing about this book is that it's actually told through mixed media. So for example, here we have some meeting minutes. There are a load of text messages that are exchanged throughout this as well. For example, here is a page there. We have emails between different characters and little post-it notes and things like that, and it just really intrigued me because I've never read a murder mystery like that before. This is definitely one of the ones that I'm more apprehensive about reading because 1, it's big, and 2, I've heard mixed opinions from a lot of different people about this book. They either love it or they hate it, and so I have been a bit scared. Saying that though, I'm very excited to dive in and see what I personally think about this one and share my thoughts with you guys along the way. All I know about this one is that a murder occurs in a small village and 2 law students are trying to solve it. One person is sent to prison for committing the crime, however it's seeming like they are actually innocent. It says here, 1 murder, 15 suspects, can you uncover the truth? And I hope I can because I would like to solve all of these. I'm not the best at solving the mysteries, but I would like to give it a good go. So yeah, very excited about this one. Next up I have The Decagon House Murders by Yukito Aitsuji. I honestly don't know too much about this one. I went through a phase of really enjoying translated Japanese murder mystery books. I read The Honjin Murders by a different author and really did enjoy that one, and so I did decide to pick this one afterwards. However, I haven't gotten to it yet, and so I thought it would be fitting to include it in this vlog and see what I think of it. So in this one we have a lonely rock-bound island which is notorious as the site of a series of bloody unsolved murders. Some people say it's haunted, but of course it's the perfect destination for a murder mystery club. When one of their party turns up dead though, they soon realise that they need to use all of their amateur sleuth knowledge to figure out what is happening and to save themselves and everyone else as well. In contrast to The Appeal, this is quite a short book. It's one that I feel like I'm going to get sucked into straight away. I love an isolated setting. I love a big group of characters when they're involved involved in a murder mystery as well, so this should definitely be up my street. Again, this is one that I've heard amazing things about, and I'm very happy that I'm making time to read it. And then the last book I've decided to read for this vlog is the Maid by Nita Prose. Again, this is one I've heard nothing but amazing things about. It was on the shortlist for the Goodreads Choice Awards last year, I believe, for their murder mystery thriller category, so I definitely have high hopes for this one. I bought it as soon as it came out, as you can tell by the lovely hardcover here, and all I know about it is that we follow a maid who works at a hotel, and one day she discovers a body of one of their most influential guests. I don't know too much more than that. I don't really want to know too much more than that. I'm so excited to dive into this one without really knowing anything, and again, I'm very happy to be prioritizing this one because I feel like I have owned it for a while now and I've never reached for it, so I'm excited to see what I do actually think about the mystery. So there we have it, you guys. These are the 4 books that I'm planning on reading this week. I won't be reading them in any particular order. I feel like I will just be picking them up as and when I feel like it. I don't really have any preference, to be honest with you guys. I feel like I will be starting with The Murder of Roger Ackroyd just because I'm familiar with Agatha Christie's writing. I love following Hercule Poirot. He is a familiar character for me, and so I feel like that is a good bet, but where we go from there I'm not too sure. I feel like I'd need to start The Appeal quite quickly because it's a chunky book, but then I'm also very interested in The Maid. I feel like this one's going to be an easier book to get into rather than the mixed media aspect of it, and then I think I'm going to save the Decagon House Murders till last because I have a good feeling about that one. So as of now I don't really have too much of a solid plan, but I am gravitating more towards these two to start off with. For now though, I do need to sit down and film a few videos, so I won't be starting any of these books too soon, but as I mentioned throughout this clip, I'm so excited for every single one. I've heard nothing but amazing things and I cannot wait to read them and share my thoughts on them with you guys as well. Good morning guys, it is currently Monday the 9th of April. I think it's around 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm up bright and early today because I do have a lot of plans. However, I'm here to talk about the 2 books that I've started reading for this vlog, which is The Maid by Nita Prose and The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie. I'll start off with The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. I had to stop myself finishing this, you guys. I could have finished this in one sitting, but I didn't think that would make for a very interesting vlog because that way I couldn't have shared my thoughts with you guys, and yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I updated you at least once before I finished it. So I'm up to page 176, so kind of halfway, just over halfway, and I'm really enjoying this one so far. I have been listening to the audiobook mainly because I was doing some kind of admin-y work bits the other day and I didn't have anything on in the background. I was just sitting there doing it. I wasn't watching anything on telly, I wasn't listening to anything, and so I decided to pop on the audiobook for this one and get started. As you can see, I have listened to a good chunk of this one. I will just double check to see how long I have left because it shouldn't really be all that long. No, I have an hour and 50 minutes left. I'm listening at 1.8 times the speed. 2 times the speed was just a little bit too fast for me this time around. I really wanted to make sure that I was retaining all the information. There are a lot of characters in this book. I always mention when I talk about an Agatha Christie murder mystery that these are so complex, even though they're quite short books. There is so much packed into them, so much information about all these different characters that you do really need to make sure that you're remembering, because when the final reveal comes, that's when it's all worth it, and that's when you finally see how everything comes together. I must have mentioned previously, but this one is a locked room mystery, which are some of my favourite things to read. It's one of Agatha Christie's most famous works, so I'm very excited to see how it all wraps up. But jumping the gun, we start off this book in a remote little village where everyone seems to know everyone else's business. And at the beginning of this book, one of the villagers does pass away. Her husband died about a year before her as well, and no foul play is suspected. However, soon before she dies, she actually sends Mr. Roger Ackroyd a letter letting him know the identity of her husband's killer. At the time that Mr. Ackroyd receives this letter, he is in the presence of the doctor. However, he refuses to open this letter in front of the doctor and read out this person's name, which is typical, of course, because a few hours later the doctor receives a phone call at his home from the butler of the Ackroyds letting him know that Mr. Ackroyd has been murdered. Now the doctor shows up at their door, of course, to assess the situation, and the butler is very confused. He does not know that Mr. Ackroyd has been murdered. He assumes that he's just in his study, and he is adamant adamant that he did not phone the doctor. So they end up going to double check on Mr. Ackroyd just in case, because why wouldn't you? And of course they do find him dead. This is a very interesting murder mystery book. There are of course so many suspects, so I don't really know what has actually gone on properly yet. I feel like I do need to listen to a little bit more of this before coming to my own conclusions. The audiobook though is fantastic. As I mentioned, I am listening to it on Scribd, and Hugh Fraser is actually the one who is narrating this audiobook, who, if you don't know, plays Captain Hastings in the ITV adaptations of the Poirot books. And let me tell you, those are some of my favourite ever things to watch. I absolutely love them. They are so well done. David Suchet as Poirot is fantastic, and Hugh Fraser as Captain Hastings is amazing. So if you haven't watched those, I would highly recommend. It was very confusing to me at the start though, because again, Hugh Fraser has narrated a few of these books so far, and as he plays Captain Hastings in the adaptations, you automatically associate his voice with Hastings, and so with Hastings not being present in this book and with him just being the narrator as the doctor, I guess, in this one, it did kind of throw me off a little bit at the beginning. I was getting a little bit confused, but we soon moved past that. He is a fantastic audiobook narrator. He knows these characters to a T, and I'm having such an amazing experience listening to the audiobook for this one. I would like to pick up this physically as well though, so I might try and do that and listen to the audiobook as well. We shall see, but I'm very thankful that there is an audiobook available for this one, because I can just pop it on when I'm pottering about the house or when I'm driving to and from different places, and I could just dive straight on back into the mystery. So this is a very enjoyable one so far. I really don't have any proper suspects. There is a suspect that's been named, and one of the main detectives of the case is essentially focused in on him. He's not really open to any other options, but it just seems like there are too many things pointing towards this one character being the murderer. So Poirot will definitely be out to prove his innocence, and yeah, aside from that, as I mentioned, so many people have different motives to want Roger Ackroyd dead, and so I'm just not at that point yet where I can figure out who it is. But I'm loving it. I only have, I want to say like 100 pages to go, just over 100 pages, and I'm very excited to see how this all wraps up and to see who actually committed the murder. And then we have The Maid. Now, I wasn't planning on reading as much of this one as I have. I picked it up yesterday to read a couple of chapters, and I am about halfway through this one as well. I am up to page 164, which is chapter 12, and I am really enjoying this book, you guys. This is a really pleasant surprise. The writing in this one is so easy to read, which is why it has been such a quick read for me. I tend to be a slower reader. However, as I mentioned, I flew through the first half of this book, and again, I had to stop myself from carrying on because I wanted to share my thoughts on this book with you guys before I finished it, essentially, and didn't have too much to say. So in this one, we follow our main character, Molly, who is a maid at the Regency Grand Hotel. She absolutely loves her job as a maid. She takes it very seriously and is so proud of the work that she does. She has a set routine. She knows exactly what she's doing. However, one day a spanner is thrown in the works when she finds one of the hotel guests dead in his bed. Of course, being the person that found the man dead, Molly is taken in for questioning, and without meaning to, soon becomes an integral part of this investigation, because maids are some of the people who actually know the most about you when you go off and stay in different places. They are often overlooked because you just kind of expect them to be there and do their job. However, Molly, being such a dedicated maid, she is very observant, and she notices little things that are off in people's rooms and their demeanour because she's so used to them. And so yeah, seeing all these different things be out of place, seeing her come to realise that maybe certain things were more significant than she first thought, is very, very interesting. And I do love the concept because it's such an interesting setting. Molly is not your usual murder mystery detective in any way. She is definitely naive, and I do find it so hard to read from her perspective sometimes because there are so many people who take advantage of her and make fun of her that it is so sad to read. And the worst thing is that she's so lovely that she doesn't even realise that people are taking the mick out of her. Of course, I'm not going to go into spoilers, but there are certain characters in this that from the get-go I knew were quite bad. However, she has taken the opposite approach with this person or these people, because again, she sees everything at face value. She's quite naive and she doesn't realise when people are being sarcastic or when people are trying to take advantage of her, and so she offers up certain things that maybe she should have kept to herself just because she feels like these people are her friends when really they're not. And it's just so heartbreaking because Molly is such a lovely character. She's been through so much, and yeah, to see her be in this place where people don't appreciate her and value her is really sad. So I'm hoping that she proves them all wrong and that she solves this mystery and that she gets the recognition that she deserves, because yeah, I feel so sorry for her and I don't think she truly believes in herself either, which is so sad. One thing I will say about this book actually, and it's something that I wasn't really expecting, is the portrayal of grief. For me personally, it is done really well. I wasn't expecting it in it. I know it's a murder mystery book, but I feel like you're disconnected from that aspect of it a lot of the times whilst you sit down and read these types of books. However, Molly has recently lost her grandmother, who was essentially like a second mother to her, and you see the effects of that on her as she tries to carry on living her everyday life. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, I lost my auntie 2 years ago now. She passed away very suddenly, and again, she was like a second mother to me. But after some time, people expect you to just kind of get on with everything, and that isn't really the case. I am still not fine now. Like, I've started to tear up just talking about it in this clip, which is not good. But yeah, grief is something that never goes away. You just learn to get on with things and live your life around it. And so to see how Molly deals with this is something I can relate to personally. I think it's depicted very well. It's given a lot of time in this book as well, which I do appreciate, because again, it can be something that can get brushed over quite a bit without people meaning to. They just obviously get on with their lives and then expect you to do the same, but it is something that sticks with you. A loss that big is really impactful on your life and how you live it and how you feel and how you interact with people. And so yeah, I really did want to mention that I think the portrayal of grief in here is done very well. Of course, that is just my personal experience. I know people grieve in different ways, but for me, reading this book, it did really tug at my heartstrings because I could relate to it. Moving on from the sadder stuff though, I am in the same place with this one as I am with The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. There are so many characters in this that have a vendetta against the man that was found dead. It is very hard to actually sift through the information and narrow it down to one singular person who committed this crime. If it is the singular person, I don't know, it could be a lot more than that. I haven't gotten to that part yet, but there are a lot of goings on in this hotel. A lot of dodgy things are happening behind the scenes, which again, Molly doesn't realise are dodgy things. She just takes it at face value and assumes that everyone is good. However, that's not the case. We have a few different side characters here that definitely have some sort of role to play in what eventually happened. Whether that was directly being involved with the murder or not, I'm not too sure, but it could definitely be a factor that leads towards the murder. And yeah, I'm just really enjoying this one a lot more than I thought I would. I know Meg said that this is a perfect introduction into the murder mystery genre if you're first starting out, and I would definitely agree with her. As I mentioned, this book is so easy to read. It's so accessible to read. You can sit down and read 100 pages in one go, and it's not an overly complex mystery either. I feel like you don't have to remember as much information as you would in, say, an Agatha Christie book. And there are also different elements to this as well, such as Molly's life and her character and her friendships in the hotel as well. So this has really surprised me. I wanted it to be a good read, but I've just been putting it off for some reason. Diving into a new murder mystery book can sometimes be a little bit daunting to me because I want to love every single one, and I know that that's not going to be the case, especially when I've not read from an author before. And so yeah, I'm very pleasantly surprised by this one. I'm really enjoying it and I can't wait to carry on reading and see what happens next. Saying that though, the reading is going to take a pause for a little bit because Tom and I are heading off to the cinema in a minute to watch Dungeons and Dragons. I'm so excited for this, you guys. I saw the trailer a while back and I knew I had to go watch it. Tom and I do have the Cineworld Unlimited memberships, which means that we pay a monthly fee and then we don't have to pay anything when we go and watch the films essentially, and that works really well for us because we love going to the cinema, and it does technically work out cheaper for us to do that because we go so often. happen. So we went to see John Wick 4 the other day, we're going to see Dungeons and Dragons today, as I mentioned, and then I really do want to see the new Super Mario Bros movie as well, but that's gonna wait for another day and probably another vlog. But yeah, we're going to see that. I think it's at 11:20. I might have made that up, but that is the time that's coming to my head. So I think we're gonna head off. We'll probably get a bite to eat at McDonald's or something like that. And then later on tonight, I do actually have a fitness class. So today might be a bit of a write-off for me in terms of my reading plans. Also, you can probably hear that I'm coming down with a bit of a cold, which I'd put off filming yesterday because I felt like I was sounding a bit nasally and I didn't want to put off filming today. So sorry if you've sat through that and I've just sounded awful, but I really want to film this vlog for you guys. I don't want to leave it too long between updates because I am quite forgetful, and after I finish a clip I usually remember something that I wanted to say, so it's better for me to update you guys as I'm reading these so that I can give you guys my initial thoughts. So sorry about that, I hope you don't mind. I hope I didn't sound too disgusting, but I am going to stop talking here now so that we can go. I will of course take you with me for the rest of the day, and I will of course update you guys once I have some more reading updates. This was so good! As you can tell, I finished this book. I really did enjoy this one. I have given it 5 stars because the way that this was done was fantastic. I really enjoyed the narration of this book. I loved seeing Poirot work through other people's eyes as well, and even though I did have my suspicions about who the murderer was, the kind of big twist and big reveal at the end was so satisfying to me. I feel like if I didn't have an inclination it would have blown me away, and yeah, it was just so well done that ever since I finished reading it I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. I even went back to watch Gavin from How to Train Your Gavin's Agatha Christie reading vlog where he read this. I couldn't watch that before because he does mention spoilers, but obviously now that I finished it, I've gone back, I've seen his thoughts on it, and yeah, it just solidified this book as a 5 stars to me. In all my excitement, the camera battery died, so I do apologise if the lighting has changed or the angle is a little bit different. Anyway, getting back to this book. The mystery in this was so well thought out, as I knew it would be. This is one of the chunkier Agatha Christie books that I've read. A lot of them are about 200 pages. This one is 300, so it is substantially longer, but I definitely feel like you needed that in order to get to know everyone, see what their motives were, see what opportunities they had, and yeah, the way it all came together at the end was so satisfying. I was waiting for it for a while and I was thinking, is this character the one? I'm not too sure, it could be this one or this one, but as I mentioned, when we got closer to the climax of this book, I did kind of figure it out and I was so satisfied by it, which I know a lot of people wouldn't be. However, I just love these books. I love seeing how Poirot's brain works, and yeah, the fact that this person just wasn't expecting for Poirot to find out that they did it was just brilliant. And yeah, I was really happy with how this one wrapped up. The way that the murder occurred as well was definitely believable. I had to go back after finishing this book and kind of reread over some of the parts of the murder, because when Poirot explains it, it just seems so obvious, and then you go back and you're like, how could I have missed that? So yeah, I definitely felt like a bit of a fool, but Miss Christie is fantastic in setting up a mystery. You definitely have to put in the work to figure out who the culprit is in most of her books, and I definitely felt that in this one, especially as a narrator. I don't want to say is unreliable, but we only see everything from his point of view, whereas if this was a multi-perspective book, or if we had someone that isn't directly involved in the case or doesn't know the people in this village, then maybe you would see some different things, you know? However, we're seeing it through the doctor's eyes, and yeah, it was brilliant. It gave me all that I wanted. I'm so glad that I finally read this one. I think the hype was definitely stopping me from doing that. I was just putting it off for no reason, and now that I've read it, I'm so glad. I understand the hype, and it is a solid murder mystery book. So if you do like the Murder on the Orient Express, this is the same type of thing. Obviously we're not in a train, we're in a village. However, the locked room mystery of it was done so well, and we do have a bunch of suspects as well who are all integral to this mystery. So would highly recommend this one. I give it 5 stars as I mentioned, and I'm so happy that I finally read it. And then I have actually finished The Maid as well. Now I would have updated you guys earlier. It's now Friday, but I have been hit with the worst cold, you guys. I think you could tell in that last clip my voice was definitely going, and yeah, I woke up on Tuesday and I was just completely flat. I think doing a workout the night before kind of set me over the edge, to be honest with you. I wasn't feeling 100%, couldn't give my all to that workout either. I was really struggling, and yeah, as I mentioned, I woke up on Tuesday, I was just full of cold, my chest was really tight, and there was no way I was filming for one, and I didn't really read too much either because I just couldn't focus. I ended up taking a nasal spray that I got for my sinuses from the doctor the last time I went. I do have trouble with my sinuses, so that definitely cleared things up, and then I was on some medicine, some cold and flu tablets, and a plethora of warm drinks as well. So as you can tell, I'm a lot better by now. I'm still not quite 100%, but I'm feeling so much better than I was throughout the week. And it's typical, isn't it, that once I get a holiday from school, I'm ill. But moving on, I have finished The Maid as well. As I mentioned, I would have liked to update you guys whilst I was reading this, but I wasn't going to subject you to hearing my disgusting nasally voice. This one took a bit of a turn for me, guys, and I'm so sad. I was loving the first 100 pages. As you saw, I was really into it. I felt such a deep connection to the characters, which definitely stands. However, I don't know, the way that this carried on, it just lost me a bit. And it's not that it isn't interesting. A lot of stuff happens, a lot of character development happens, a lot of revelations are revealed as well, but there are just certain things in this that I didn't love by the end. One of them being that our main character seems to be neurodivergent. It's never mentioned anywhere, and so this is just me speculating. However, being a teacher and having certain family members with these traits, I definitely picked up on it, and instead of going into an exploration on autism or something like that, the author just has people make fun of our main character for being different, which is an approach that I really didn't appreciate. I would have liked that discussion. I would have liked to see people treat her as every person should be treated, and yeah, I just think that missing that made it seem as though the characters were just being horrible and that our main character was really suffering because of it with no real reason, to be honest with you. People are mean, I know that, but I feel like having that as part of the character would have made a lot more sense in this book. I don't know if it was just used as a plot point to make our main character seem a bit out of touch with what is going on in the world. She is very direct, and if you're being sarcastic, she doesn't quite pick up on it because, of course, our brains work differently, and sometimes people do take things literally depending on whether they have a diagnosis or anything like that. And so yeah, I didn't love that aspect of it. People did take advantage of her quite a bit, as I mentioned as well, and I don't know if it was a plot point to be used so that the character was a bit, I don't want to say less focused because she's so focused on the things that she is passionate about, but the social cues and interactions and people's mannerisms were lost on her because of this possible neurodivergency. However, as I mentioned, I'm not in any way, shape or form labeling this character. I personally don't have the knowledge or expertise or anything like that to put a label on her. I'm just saying that the way it was done wasn't really the best, and it did just make me feel quite sad actually. It made me pity the character quite a bit, which again might be what the author wanted, but yeah, the way it was done just didn't quite sit right with me, and I definitely think that that's a factor that dragged this book down for me. The mystery itself wasn't anything groundbreaking. I definitely could have predicted what went on from about 50 pages onwards. Of course, I can't say anything in this vlog because it would be a spoiler, but there were some things that popped up in the first 100 pages that kind of piqued my interest, and then of course as the story went on, I was just more and more confident of what had happened and what was actually going on in this hotel. hotel. Of course, our main character was unaware of that. A lot of other people that work there were unaware of that. But I feel like we went through quite a lot to just come back to where we were at the start, to be honest with you guys. And I don't know, it was definitely a quick read, which is obviously a good aspect of it. I flew through this book, but the plot was definitely predictable, which again is such a shame. I definitely feel like if you're new to the genre, you would love this book. I just personally can't see how it was nominated for the Goodreads Choice Awards with it being the way it is. I feel like there are so many more murder mysteries that are a lot well written and a lot more well thought out than this one. And it's not to say if this is your favourite book, that's fantastic, but for me personally, I was just let down by it, and at the end of it, the characters were kind of all in the same place anyway, so it didn't really make a difference to them whatsoever. And so I did end up giving this one 3 stars. I was loving it, as I mentioned, up until the kind of halfway point, and then I just wasn't getting the same atmosphere that I got at the start. It was definitely a lot more of a cozier mystery at the start, and then as we got a lot further on in the plot, it just moved away from that, which again is fine, but for me personally, it wasn't all that I wanted. So I did give this one 3 stars. Again, not a bad rating. I would really recommend this to people, but comparing this one to The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, I could no way give them a similar rating because I loved that book, as you saw, and this one was a bit of a disappointment for me this time round. I'm so happy to have finished those 2 books. I'm really happy that I got a 5-star read because I haven't had one of them for a while, and even though The Maid was disappointing, I did still enjoy it. I have actually started The Appeal now as well, just because I had some free time yesterday and I thought that I might as well, because this is a chunky book, you guys, and I feel like it's going to take me quite a while to get through. I have tried reading this one before. I got about 60 pages in and just put it down because I felt like nothing was really happening in the plot. We have a lot of back and forth between different characters, so you do really have to pay attention, and I feel like the plot wasn't actually moving forward. So if I can get to the page 100 mark, I feel like hopefully at least from there on I will get a lot more into the story and the plot. But I'm up to page 55, I think it was, but this doesn't really have chapters in it, so it's very hard to know where you are in the book without a bookmark, and of course I don't have a bookmark in it. But no, I'm on page 50. So I've got another 50 pages or so to go before I think I will fully get into this story. Of course, with it being mixed media, it is a different type of book for me to read as well. As I mentioned, you do have to remember key things such as the dates, who is messaging who is speaking to who, and we do have a few different plot points happening at once in this as well. No murder has occurred just yet. I am desperately waiting for that to happen because I feel like as soon as the murder happens, that's when my brain kicks into gear and I read it faster because I want to know all the information so that I can then try and guess who the perpetrator is. But I definitely feel like this is a slower book, which is strange because I thought that the mixed media element of it would move it along quicker, but it might just be me. I'm not used to it, as I mentioned, and yeah, it's just a very strange thing to get your head around, but I'm hoping it's going to be a good one. I am going to read some more of this tonight. I am going out for food though, so depending on how long we stay out there, I might not read as much of this as I want to, but I am very glad that I've decided to save the Decagon house murders for last because I feel like this is going to take quite a big chunk of my time, especially with me having to focus so much on the information, and then hopefully the Decagon house murders will be a nice little book to wrap up this vlog. For now though, once again, this has been a long update, so I am going to end it here. As I mentioned, I wanted to update you guys earlier, but you guys definitely wouldn't have appreciated that, so sorry that these clips have been a few days apart and that they've been quite long, but hopefully I can update you guys when I'm about 100 pages into this one, and I will share my thoughts and possible theories and take it from there. So for now, I'm going to leave it here and I will catch up with you once I've read some more of this book. Right guys, I know that this is an awful angle, but Tom's just gone up to bed and I couldn't be asked getting up and trying to sort out the camera, so I've just plopped you literally on top of me and I've pointed you down. So I have Kiwi here as well. I don't know if you can see, there she is. Oh, she's always with me, the little snuggle bug. But I have made it up to page 202 of The Appeal. So I am about 45% of the way through now, and oh my goodness, this is so boring. That's how I feel reading it, honestly. We are 200 pages in, guys, and the murder hasn't even happened. Like, I feel like nothing has happened, and I was honestly falling asleep whilst I was sat down to read this now. I thought I would be able to get through it a lot quicker, but for some reason, I don't know if it's me, I don't know if it's the mixed media aspect of it, I'm just struggling to actually get through this. I'm really surprised that I've managed to read so much tonight actually, but if I'm reading at this pace tomorrow as well, I'm not going to read the Decagon House Murders in the week that I gave myself for this vlog, because it will have already been a week. And tomorrow I really do need to focus on doing a lot of work stuff. I need to do a lot of lesson prep so that I know what I'm doing at least for the first week back, because I've got a new job, I'm in a new school, and so yeah, I genuinely don't know what to expect. I don't know what the kids' levels are and things like that, so I do have to make a lot of different options for my tasks that are all for a new theme as well. So I'm gonna have a really busy day tomorrow, which is not great. And yeah, this is a slow read, so I do think I'm gonna struggle to finish this one out tomorrow. I don't know whether the pacing will increase. I thought it would increase after the 100-page mark, but as I mentioned, nothing has happened. The characters in here as well are all so whiny. They're all bitching about each other. They're all so focused about their own lives that they're not really seeing what is happening in real life, and it's so stressful reading it and seeing them all interact but blatantly missing a massive point. So yeah, I don't know. At the minute, this is like, I don't even know if it's 3 stars because nothing has happened. I'm not sure if I mentioned before, but I have seen a lot of mixed reviews for this book. I haven't really looked into the details of the mixed reviews. I've just seen that people have been really disappointed by it, which is definitely how I'm feeling right now. I am glad that I've made myself push through though and carry on with it, because I'm almost halfway through this book now, so I know that tomorrow I'm just going to finish it off, hopefully. But yeah, the murder hasn't happened. The play hasn't even happened yet. Essentially all of it is focused around the fundraiser for a little girl in here that does have cancer. That is definitely looking a bit shady though, especially as the family of the girl who have cancer have so much money and they have a lot of properties and things like that, and they are asking everyone else for money rather than trying to contribute any themselves, which I know people's financial situations can change and not everything's as it seems, but again, it's just something's not quite right there, I don't think. And so I definitely need to keep an eye out on that and see what's going on, because that would be awful if they were lying about that. But there are certain points in here that are being exaggerated, such as the little girl with cancer is actually said to be losing her eyesight, which isn't true. So they're kind of playing up for sympathy points in order to get more money, which is obviously not great. But at this point in time, I'm not actually sure whether the child has cancer or not, or if it's just a ploy in order to get money from the people of this village. So I will let you guys know. I'm still a little bit confused by the characters and who they actually are, because they don't have that voice that you get in a traditionally published novel. It is hard to differentiate between them sometimes. I can definitely identify some over others, and I know who we're following in some aspects, but the kind of minor side characters do get lost, which again is a bit annoying because I just find myself having to go back and try and think who they actually are and what their relevance is to the situation and what's happening. So yeah, I'm not having the best time with this one, unfortunately. As I mentioned, it might get better from here, I don't actually know. And we don't really see anything about the mystery unfold. All we get is a text conversation that lasts about 2 pages between our law students. So literally this one is about 3 pages where they say, oh, did you see this email? And they're like, yeah, what could that mean? Oh, I don't know, we should carry on looking. And then we get thrown back into the correspondence between all the different characters. So I don't know, something is lacking for me at the minute. I'm definitely hoping that it will pick up and that the plot will move forward a bit very soon. As I mentioned, I'm halfway now and literally nothing has happened, so there should definitely be some sort of movement in terms of plot, but who knows with this book, to be honest with you guys. I'm still pretty much in the dark. I still don't know where this is gonna go, and at the minute it is definitely falling a bit flat for me. So I am gonna go to bed now. It's currently 11 o'clock. Wow, that's a late night. So I'm gonna go to sleep, and then tomorrow I will carry on reading this. As I mentioned, I have a load of work bits I need to do. We're also going to play badminton, so that'll take up about an hour and a half out of my day, and then I still have this book to read, so I might just push this over into next week. This doesn't seem to be too long though, and I'm hoping it'll be a lot more fast-paced than the appeals, so who knows how long it'll actually take me to read this one. But I might even try and read a few pages of this tomorrow just to get the vibe of the book. Maybe that'll be a good thing to break it up between these two. I'm not too sure, but yeah, the plan is to prioritize the appeal Appeal, but then if I feel like it's a slog, I might turn to this one and start it at least, so that I have an inclination as to what this mystery is about as well. Sorry that this update was a bit of a negative one. Sorry for any shakiness. As I mentioned, the camera is literally balancing on my recliner on my legs, so definitely not the best stabilization, but Tom's gone to bed. I didn't want to disturb him, and he very kindly brought the camera down for me so that I didn't have to move because Kiwi was on me. So yeah, I do apologise. The setup will be a whole lot better tomorrow, I can imagine. I'm not 100% sure when I'll update you guys yet, depending on what I decide to do with my day, but I will update you guys tomorrow. I'm hoping to at least read another 100 pages, maybe even finish that book tomorrow, so I should definitely have some updates, but for now I'm gonna go to sleep and I will catch you guys tomorrow. Right guys, I've done it. I finished the appeal and I gave it 2 stars. I could honestly rate it a 1 star, however I do feel like that is a little bit mean, but I just don't get the hype surrounding this book. It was so boring, it dragged on for way too long. I can't even tell you when the murder actually happens. It was definitely over the 200-page mark, and I was just so bored with everyone's life. Like, I genuinely did not care. I knew some dodgy things were going on, and that was definitely what was keeping my interest at that point. And I can definitely say that when the murder does happen, the pacing does increase and the story moves along a lot quicker. However, the ending was just really unsatisfying for me. The motives that people had just really didn't seem to be that solid, and yeah, unfortunately this one really wasn't for me. I'm gutted because it is such a beloved book, and honestly I don't really know why, because I just did not get it at all. I think one of the main issues I had with it is the fact that it's told in email format. As I understand it, this book is set in 2018. You cannot be telling me that people emailed like this in 2018. I think, again, that's one of the reasons that I was pulled out of the story. I definitely would have liked seeing the detectives in this work together a lot more. They do just kind of pop in here and there and essentially condense what we have just read into like a page of notes, and then they send that off to their supervisor, they get some feedback, and then they have to carry on working on the case to find out who the actual murderer is. That was definitely interesting. I wish we had more. They only popped up a few times, and again, the ending was just really unsatisfying for me. I would have liked to have seen them be a lot more involved, and to be completely honest with you guys, if I wasn't reading this for this vlog, I would have DNF'd it, because this has put me in one of the worst reading slumps. It's been 6 weeks since I first started this vlog. It was meant to be a week-long thing, and because of how much this book just didn't work for me, it's now been 6 weeks since I last updated you, which is awful. So yeah, I will be unhauling this book. I will probably gift it to Tom's mum to see whether she would like it, or my mum. But yeah, unfortunately this one wasn't for me. I do have Janice Hallett's other book, which is The Twyford Code. I've heard a lot of good things about that one, so I will give it a go at some point. However, I don't want to go anywhere near it at this point in time, because this book has scarred me and I just need to get over that. So yeah, a very unpopular opinion, I feel like, but the characters were boring and some of them didn't even serve any purpose at all. It was definitely hard to keep track of everyone as well because of the extensive cast of characters, and I feel like that was used in order to have a lot of different suspects. However, it just didn't work for me. It just made the book drag even more, especially when you knew that it wasn't actually relevant to what was going on. So to sum it up, I thought this book was never going to end. I feel like I've accomplished something by reading it, but I don't know what, because as I mentioned, it put me in a massive reading slump. There wasn't much I enjoyed about this book. I was ultimately surprised at who the murderer was. However, I feel like it was just kind of thrown in there very, very quickly, and there wasn't a satisfying lead up and reveal to it. So again, I just feel like I wanted more from this book. I wanted less. Let's get that clear. I wanted less pages, I wanted more of an in-depth look at the characters, and I wanted a more concise novel, which is what I do tend to get in my Agatha Christie novels, which is why I do love them so much. I feel like this one was way too long. It didn't need to be that long at all, and ultimately by the 100-page mark I really wasn't enjoying it, and I had to force myself through to continue reading it. On a more positive note though, I have now started reading the last book that I'm going to feature in this vlog, which is the Decagon House Murders by Yukito Ayatsuji. I am about 100 pages in. I don't currently have a bookmark in there, but I have logged my page count on Goodreads, and I'm really happy to say that I am, just from the first 100 pages or so, very much enjoying this one. This has been compared a lot to And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, which I can definitely see the similarities between the two books. And Then There Were None is such a great murder mystery. It's a classic story, and this definitely takes inspiration from it. However, just from the get-go, it seems a lot more sinister because the isolated island that they traveled to was the scene of a death in the last year. I believe I give you a quick little synopsis at the beginning of this video, but essentially we have a group of characters who are all part of their university's murder mystery detective club, which honestly sounds amazing, but essentially they all have nicknames based off of crime authors or characters in those novels, and so I guess you could say they're more like code names for each other. And this group in particular are the kind of elite members of this club at the minute. They have the nicknames for the most famous detectives and writers, such as Agatha for Agatha Christie. Now I can't list all of them off the top of my head, there are a few, but I can't quite remember all the names. From the size of this book though, I feel like it's not going to drag like The Appeal. It definitely felt like a slower start, but the pacing of the novel isn't really that slow. I was just personally taking my time reading it because I didn't want to miss anything. However, the story itself is actually quite fast-paced, and we actually have two different kind of timelines going on. They're both set in present day at the same time. However, in one timeline we are following this group of friends on the island, and then in the other timeline we are following three men who seemed to get a mysterious letter from a man who is supposedly dead. So the murder hasn't actually occurred yet, but as you can tell from the get-go, a lot of stuff has actually happened just in the first 100 pages. It's all set up for now though, and we are of course building up to the first murder. There are definitely going to be a few murders, as there is in And Then There Were None. I'm not sure if every single one of these characters are going to die. I honestly have no idea. I'm not sure if one of them is going to figure out what's going on or what, or if the men on the mainland are going to somehow figure out what's going on and help them. I honestly have no idea, but I can say that I am enjoying this one. I'm going to sit out in the garden today and hopefully finish it, because it's only about 285 pages, so it's definitely doable. I just want to dedicate some time to read it now because I feel like I've been filming this vlog for the longest time, which I of course have been, so it would be lovely to finally finish this one off, give you guys my thoughts on it, and then of course finally share this vlog with you as well. So that is the plan for the rest of the day for me. I will hopefully come back later on tonight once I have finished this book and can share my final thoughts on it with you guys. I'm really hoping it's going to be a good one, especially after The Appeal. I feel like I just need a good murder mystery to kind of put me back in that mind space, because I've just wanted to avoid every single murder mystery book on my shelves since reading The Appeal, and that is not what we want. So cross your fingers guys that I'm gonna like this one, and yeah, I will check back in once I have hopefully finished it. I've done it, you guys. I have finished the Decagon House Murders. I can't believe I've done that. I haven't just sat down and dedicated time to read that much in what feels like forever. So yeah, I've had a lovely afternoon out in in the sun reading this book. I'm not sure about my rating for this one. It's either going to be a 3.5 or a 4-star. I have rounded it up to a 4 on Goodreads because they don't do half stars, so I guess we'll call it a 4 for now, but it might be closer to a 3.5. This was really good, you guys. I was engaged throughout. I was desperate to know who was going to be killed next and what was actually going on. So that aspect of the book was fantastic. It kept me glued to the story. I didn't want to put this book down as soon as we got into the actual murders, and you literally did not have a clue who was going to be killed next. Like, none of them were safe. The level of danger was so high, and yet it was also just so psychologically draining seeing these characters go through this because none of them know who the murderer is. They could be living with them right now and they don't have a clue, which is terrifying, and yeah, was definitely interesting for me as a reader as well, trying to pick up on some clues and see what was actually going on. I didn't manage to solve it, and I don't think I ever would have managed to solve it because the reveal was very kind of out there for me personally. I might have just been a bit dim, I'm not too sure, but I expected something different, and we did get the reveal and it was kind of talked through. However, I feel like the reveal was a little bit more informative rather than it being a story. It was kind of like an analysis of what happened, and yeah, I just felt like that was a little bit too formal, I want to say, rather than it being a part of the story and it being a little bit more genuine. So that is one of the reasons that this book isn't getting a higher rating from me. I just felt the ending to be a little bit too methodical, and I wish we actually got to see more resolution from that. I wish certain characters got to know what was going on, and I wish we got to see their reactions and also everyone around them. However, we didn't get that. We just had this character kind of looking back and saying, oh, this is what I did, and then it just kind of ends, which is not the best, but we did get an answer, which I'm thankful for. I don't tend to like open-ended books. I do like to have a definitive end to my mysteries, so I did like that. But yeah, the ending just fell a little bit flat. It just had a change in tone to the rest of the book, which again is understandable because the kind of narrator is different because we are in this serial killer's head. In terms of the plot though, throughout this book, it was fantastic. I really enjoyed the dual perspective timeline sort of thing that was going on, and I really enjoyed seeing how both of those mysteries intertwined. It was very cleverly done, very reminiscent of Agatha Christie, as you would expect, but then again, it is its own story as well. It's not stuck to the narrative of that book to a T. It has gone off and it has changed things. The island itself in this is so mind-boggling as well because the Decagon house is obviously the shape of a decagon and everything inside of it is the same sort of style as well, which is really odd. And there was also a blue mansion, I believe, in this where everything was blue, like completely blue, because the guy that bought the island was an architect and wanted to make these kind of amazing, intricate, detailed but kind of crazy buildings. So yeah, having them set in those types of places as well just made it all the more eerie. It also just made it a lot harder for the killer in general, because if you think about it, every single room in the Decagon house is pointing towards each other. So if you were to try and like leave your room at night to kill someone, surely someone else would hear you or see you or something. But yeah, the way it was done was really clever and I did enjoy it, even though it wasn't the best murder mystery I've ever read, or at least I didn't feel like this was the best book for me. I did really enjoy it. I can appreciate it as a novel. I will be reading more from this author as well, and this is definitely a good place to start because, as you can tell, I have a lot of thoughts. I had a really good reading experience, and even though the reveal was a little bit lacking for me, the overall story in this and the overarching plot and mystery was very compelling and I did really enjoy it. So there we have it, you guys. These are the 4 books that I read. I really hope you enjoyed hearing my thoughts on them. If I was to go in terms of favourite to least favourite, I feel like my favourite would be The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. Then it would be the Decagon house murders. Then we would have The Maid, and this definitely comes as no surprise, but The Appeal is at the bottom. So yeah, we had a really good stack of books, except for this one that put me in a 6-week slump. I would highly recommend the top 3. I would also recommend The Appeal if you do think it's going to be your type of thing. I definitely thought that, but it really did let me down, unfortunately. However, the thing about us being readers is that we all interpret books differently and enjoy different books as well. So again, if it sounds interesting to you, pick it up, see what you think, and let me know if you do try it, because I do love chatting about bookish thoughts with you guys. But yeah, I'm really glad I decided to film this vlog. Hopefully it's informative in some ways for you guys. Maybe it made you pick one of these up. Maybe you hadn't heard of one of these before, but now it's on your radar, you think you would be interested in it. Of course, Agatha Christie is always going to be hard to beat, and this one was one of her most well-loved mysteries, so it is typical that it is on top. But yeah, the Decagon House Murders was a nice surprise. The Maid as well, I really did enjoy that one. It's a really good mystery if you're just starting out, and The Appeal, whilst it wasn't for me, I know that a lot of people have really enjoyed it as well. If you have read any of these books and would like to share your thoughts on them with me, please do leave them down below. Spoiler free, of course, because I don't want anyone to read a spoiler in the comments. That's never a good thing, so please be respectful, but definitely let me know if you have any thoughts on the books that I've mentioned. In terms of the emoji of the video, I'm gonna ask you to leave me a magnifying glass down in the comments. Of course, with me reading murder mysteries, I feel like that is definitely a fitting emoji. I've not been the best detective at this time around. I did manage to find 2 of the killers out of 4, so not the worst, not the best, but maybe I'll do a part 2 and hopefully my score will be a little bit better. So if you don't have anything in particular that you would like to say, but you would like to let me know that you're still here, please go ahead and leave me the magnifying glass down below. As well as that, if you would like to show your support, you can always click the like button if you like this video, and the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content from me. But that is it for me today, guys. I really do hope you enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun making it, and it was really great to read some more murder mysteries for a change. Also, let me know if you would like a part 2 down below, because I'm definitely not opposed to that. You guys know murder mysteries are some of my favourite books to read. Or if you would like me to do a different themed reading vlog, please let me know that down below as well. But I'm gonna stop talking now, guys, otherwise I would be here all day. But again, a massive thank you for watching. It truly does mean the world to me, and I will see you soon in my next video. Goodbye!